Hi beautiful people, welcome to my channel. Welcome to Pixie K Designs. I'm Kate and I'm really happy that you've joined me today. Today I'm making tags for my journal. This is using Cornelia's Garden by Raindrop Lila, and I'll list her Etsy shop below. So I'm using a variety of things, some of the wallpapers and also some of the pre-made tags, which I'm then going to try and alter a little bit. I always struggle with the pre-made tags. I mean, they're really, really pretty, don't get me wrong, and you could just simply back them and pop them in, but I always feel like I haven't done enough if I've done that. So here I've got a scrap of one of the wallpapers that I didn't end up using. It's printed on both sides, so I was going to use it in the journal, but I haven't. And this is one of the images from, I think, the snippet strip type things, and I've blown it up and I've printed it on like a sketchbook paper, so it's got that quite muted, dulled down kind of look to it, which I really like. And then I've got this other scrap which I'm going to place at the top, so a kind of a collage tag. I have taken the brown paper page out of the journal. I'll show you the journal in the next video. I've actually ended up with two signatures because the one signature just felt like it was getting really bulky, and I felt like when I tried to bind it into a cover it was just going to be really, I don't know, just too fat and awkward. So I've divided it into two signatures, which I'll show you in the next video if you're interested. I think, yeah, after this one, maybe one more video and then a flip through. I think that would be more than enough, but you know, who knows? Who knows, I might change my mind. So yeah, now I'm just going to place this and back it with this brown paper that didn't end up as a page in the journal. Yeah, so I just use some glue stick on the back of this and glue it down. How are you all today? And I hope you're well. We are well, although in saying that, we did have a bit of a hard week last week. We had to say goodbye to David's beloved hunting dog. He was our GSP pointer named Bryn. And yeah, he's very old. He was very old, and we were sort of waiting for him to look like he was not really enjoying life anymore. And that kind of happened last week or before last week, and he stopped eating. So yeah, a really, really sad day. It was real tough for David, very tough, and actually much harder for me than I thought it would be. And yeah, so that happened, but we were very lucky. We had pre-arranged before that for Briley, my daughter, and Albie, her partner, to come down and visit. Briley was going to help me with some of my technical kind of stuff, and yeah, so that was actually a godsend, because just the distraction of having some people and having some fun and laughs and eating lovely meals and drinking and playing card games, it was good medicine. So yeah, that was our sort of late last week and weekend. Not the best, but yeah, we're sort of getting used to him not being here, I guess, but it will take a while, and I think it will take a while for my dog to get used to being alone as well, because he's basically had Bryn around since he was about 9 months old. Anyway, so I'm just making the top of this tag with this lovely wallpaper digital, and sort of just thinking about how I'm going to wrap that around. I think I just end up gluing it down. This tag isn't too bulky because all it is paper and then paper on the back. I haven't used cardstock, so it's quite a lightweight tag. It won't take up too much room in a pocket, which is good. So yeah, I continue to just faff around with it a little bit and then glue that piece of paper down. For the next one, I'm using a tag base that I've had lying around for a while, and I've obviously cut oval in the middle, as you can see. It's slightly off center, which I realize when I'm sort of inking it, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe I need to remedy that. But I decided I want to use this. It's got a little sellotape mark at the top there of the oval, which was on there. I don't know, it's actually not fake, it's real, so there must have been some tape on there at some point. Anyway, regardless, I decide that I want to try and center that oval a little bit, so I go to my cutter and have a little play around with that to see if I can make it look a little bit better. As you can see, I've actually taken off the top, because if you cut down the side of the tag, it makes the diagonal tag shape all wonky. So basically I just decided I would cut it off. That would save me a whole lot of angst. So now it's sort of a rectangular, a rectangular journal card rather than a tag. So now I'm working out where I want to place it over this image, which is an image from Still Life by Raindrop Lila. I love these images, they're really beautiful, like old paintings, or they are old paintings, I guess. So yeah, I take that to my cutter and just cut that down to size. I'm happy with that, so I go ahead and just put some art glitter glue. Oh, also while I was over there, I embossed it. I forgot about that, yeah, so I have actually run that through the embosser. So I'm using the art glitter glue because sometimes when it's embossed, it's really hard. Well, it's not really hard, but it's a little bit harder to glue down. So yeah, I'm doing that, and then I'm going to try and get it placed how I want it. A little bit of ink around it, sort of highlight the embossing, and a little bit of trimmage, and then I actually put that one aside because I'm not quite sure how I'm going to back it. I haven't got that far in my head for that one, so that is as much as I do on that one for the time being. I put it aside. The next thing I do is I grab the pre-made or pre-printed tags that are from the kit. So these tags are from the kit. They're a really nice size. I really like big tags. I don't know why. I mean, I like small ones too, but I love when there's some big ones in the kit. Anyway, so I've actually printed them all twice because they've got these layers digitally layered. I was wondering whether I could, I don't know, do something with that. I didn't really have a huge plan in my head, and they have been sitting around for a while, and I keep looking at them and going, oh, I don't know where I'm going with these. But today is the day. I'm determined to do something with them. So I'm just grabbing my stamping platform. Yeah, so this is a godsend for me. I really, really love this tool. It's one of my most favorite things that I've purchased. I got it on Facebook Marketplace from a local lady, and I love it. So yeah, I'm using one of Sam Paul's little stamps there that says note, and I want to just place it in the middle of that little digital frame that's on the tag, and I think that will look really cute. So that's the first thing I decide I want to do. Then the next thing I want to do is somehow layer this bit on top of the other bit. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's going to be a little hidden journaling space, I guess, that somehow flips. And I'm just mulling over in my head how I want that to work. Am I going to put something down the side so it flips open sideways? Am I going to have it flip up or down? So I decide I'm going to utilize that piece of sellotape that you can see above the little frame that's kind of digitally put onto the tag, and sort of looks like there's a piece of paper being held on by that. So I'm taking that off the top bit, and I'm going to use some aged sellotape that I've used ink on to make that flip up. But before I do that, I do decide that I want to actually back that top piece so that when it flips up, there's sort of some older looking paper on the back of it. So that's basically the next job for me to do. So yeah, a glue stick on the back of this, and it gets into a bit of a sticky situation, so I grab something to sort that out, and then I'm gluing this top piece to this old piece of blank book page that I have found in my drawer. Yeah, so just getting that all sorted, and then I just tear around the edge and trim it up, and that's all ready to be attached to the main tag. Yes, so I'm really happy with that, and I grab my sellotape box, my aged sellotape, and find a piece that I think will suit, and just sort of measure it up and tear it off. Now I use art glitter glue to stick this down. It seems to do a really good job with this plasticky sellotape. And yeah, so I just pop some art glitter glue on. I always spread it around a little bit with my finger to try and avoid any sort of oozing out too much. I'm having a bit of a mare with my art glitter glue. Every time I leave the pin out, it just actually kind of just erupts out of the nozzle. I've tried filling it up. It's just not my friend right now. It's sitting here on my desk and I'm just looking at it going, you are not my friend. And so yeah, the pin and the nozzle just get all gunked up and gluey and just looks really unattractive. So I'm not happy with it at all. Anyway, it does the job though once you use it. It's a good glue, just not my friend. Right, so then I lift it up and I think, oh yeah, I'm going to need another piece there just to stabilize it. So I grab another piece of sellotape, just similar size, and tear that to size. I must have decided that one was too wide. Tear it to size, and again, art glitter glue, and yeah, use the finger to just smudge it out a bit, and yeah, glue it down, and that will hold that perfectly fine. I don't think it will need anything else. Okay, so obviously not very happy with how that looks there, so just checking it's good at the front and just repositioning that sellotape. Yep, so pretty happy with that. The next ones I want to work on are these two from the kit, and again, like I said, I've printed them all out twice. They're on Epsom matte photo paper, so they're really beautiful prints. And I decide I want to highlight that little, I think it's just a downsized vintage postcard on that little right hand corner. So I'm cutting it out, and I basically just want to turn it into a little tiny tuck spot on there, and it just gives it a bit of dimension to the tag by just cutting it out and sticking it back on top. So then I think, oh well, I better back it first. Let's get that job done. So I'm using some really old book page that I found at an op shop. They came in packs, and it's just really lovely. It's got a great patina to it. It's got some staining. It's all the things I like. So, and it's quite heavy, so it's not quite a cardstock, but it's definitely a very heavyweight paper. So I glue it onto that. As you can see the back there, it's really beautiful. I love it. And tea stain paper would work just as well, but if you've got the old stuff, it's always good to repurpose. So then I just go about cutting around the edge of that just with my scissors. So I love the weight of that now. It's just given it a nice tag, sort of heavy weight. And I want to actually staple this little piece on. So I'm actually going to end up using my stapler that's got rusty staples in it. Now, the stapler does not like the rusty staples, so it does take a bit of faffing to get it to work. You sort of have to push the staple right up. See, one of them's already obviously sort of not worked there. Push the staple sort of right up in there, and sometimes it doesn't work. It often takes a couple of goes, but I love the look of the rusty staple, and so this stapler here is dedicated to that. I actually add a little bit of glue just to hold it in place while I'm stapling, just to get it right. So as you can see, the first one doesn't work, so we have to give it another go by opening it up, taking out the staple that didn't work, and then restapling it. I don't mind, it's worth it in the end, but it is a bit of a faff. So with those two to that stage, still a little bit more to do, but I decide to get on to this one because I do want to have a go at all of them. There's 3. And this one I'm a bit more stuck on. I didn't really have any idea what I was going to do with this one at all. So yeah, I'm just sort of having a think, and I decide, oh well, I'm going to tear this and make it a little uptuck spot on the tag. So yeah, so that's a layer to give it a little bit more dimension. And so yeah, I go with that. I like how it looks, so I do a bit of inking and I just glue it along the top. I do a bit of trimming to make sure it fits, and I just glue it along the top, I think, and just a little bit down the sides to start with until I decide whether I wanted it to be a complete tight pocket or whether I want one side open. So yeah, that's what I'm doing, is just a bit of trimming and inking and aging before I glue it down. Once I've done all that sort of prepping to it, a bit of sanding, a bit of inking, I get my art glitter glue and glue it to the top, glue it on top of the base tag. And then I think to myself, oh, I better actually back this tag as well, the same as the other one, before I go any further. At one stage I did think of stitching around it, but I decided against that. It felt like it would just close up that pocket, that you wouldn't even be able to put anything in it. Not that you have to put anything in it at all, but yeah, I decided against stitching. So there we are, just gluing it to the top of the tag there, and then I go about backing it, and I do exactly the same thing with this one as I did with the previous one. I use the very old book page, and yeah, just have that lovely old paper on the back which can be written on, or I mean another paper could be glued on top of it if someone didn't like that particular paper. That one's backed, and I just grabbed the others out to have a look at them because obviously they need more. They're not done. And I grabbed this one and I really want to stitch around it. I think, okay, let's do that now. The glue will have dried. Now's as good a time as any. So I changed my thread to black and stitch around that and just hope that I get it relatively even and not too wonky. I figure if it's too wonky, I'll just go around again and make it look like it's meant to be wonky. That's kind of my fix for those sorts of mistakes. I'm really happy. I've got 5 tags here, or 4 tags and a journaling card. But yeah, they're looking really good. They've still got more work to do on them. So I'm having a bit of a tidy up, and I'm going to go away and come back and finish them off after lunch. I put this one onto an old envelope. Now I forgot to turn my camera on, so this is me just showing you what I've done with that one. So that one's backed onto an old envelope, and then I decided I want to get on and just do some kind of topper for this one. I've used a piece of paper, scrap paper, the same as what's behind the image on the tag, to make a little sort of tab at the top, and it's got a hole, and the hole is reinforced with just an ordinary old inked hole reinforcer. So I'm just going to glue that down at the top, and then I'll put the hole right through that to the back, and then I will tie it with some of the sari silk that I'm planning on using throughout this journal. This is a really simple way of putting a sort of a what do you call, a topper or a eyelet at the top of a tag if you don't have metal eyelets. I really love this. It looks really good. Heather from Rosehill Paper Cottage does this a lot on her tags. I mean, lots of people do, but it's a great way to use scraps. It uses a cheap sort of paper hole reinforcer that you can buy anywhere, and it just really looks effective, I think. So the hole reinforcers I use are paper, they're not plastic, which means you can ink them, coffee dye them, do whatever you want to them, and you can actually even print on them. I've done that before. You just attach that whole piece to a piece of paper, and then an A4 piece of paper, trick your printer into thinking it's printing on A4, and then just run it through, and then you've got some sort of real cool looking hole reinforcers. So this is the sari silk ribbon I'm going to be using throughout the journal. I've decided it's kind of got these golds, pinks colours throughout it, and it's super pretty. I'm pretty sure this is from Colour Kissed Silks. It's a place that I bought it on Etsy. I can link it below, from the States, so it wasn't a super budget purchase, but it is very beautiful and it's all hand dyed. So I got a bunch because it's not particularly expensive postage really, because it's so light. Anyway, now I'm going to put this ticket on. So this is just a genuine ticket again that I bought from a Instagram seller, and I'm going to attach that to just that old piece of book page just for a little bit of texture, and then I'm just going to glue it onto the back there. Nothing fancy, but just a little bit of interest on the back, and then still plenty of plenty of space on the back for someone to do more artwork or writing, or leave as is. I'm just having a play with this piece of old ledger, but decide no, I'm just going to leave it like that. Nice and simple. I really love how this turned out. I think the bow at the top looks really cool, and all the different collage pieces. Really happy with it. So now I have to decide what I am going to do next. So I popped that one aside. I feel like I'm making some pretty good progress, and while I was off camera, I fussy cut a couple of roses out because I felt like this needed something on the front. So yeah, I just cut a couple of roses out from a rose garden book that I own. I think Joe actually gave me this little book, and I haven't actually cut many of the roses out. They're a really good little size, and so I decided that I'm going to glue this on to the front of here. When I look at it here, I feel like it needs something behind it. So I grabbed some book page. This is a really old piece of French book page. It's rag paper. It's got a beautiful texture to it. It's got a different shade of ecru or cream, whatever you want to call it. Takes me a little while to decide where I want it and how I want it, but eventually I do get it placed how I like it. I am actually trying to have some of the text showing. Then I think, oh, I've cut it, I should have made it bigger, but then I think, no, that's the piece I want, so let's just get it stuck down. But yeah, you can see me trying it out and on either side multiple times. But I do get there in the end. I end up gluing it down, just use some glue stick for the book page and also glue stick for the fussy cut. And I really love how that ends up looking. I grabbed one of those really tiny little Tim Holtz paper clips just to hold that little lift up flap down, and I think I'll probably tie something pretty to that. The back's super plain and it may stay like that, it may not, who would know. But at this stage it's going to stay like that, and I decide this one's just going to have an eyelet at the top. I think the top's really pretty. I tried putting something like the other one over the top, but I didn't really like covering it up. It just didn't work. I couldn't find a piece that made it that I liked. So I thought, well, I'm just going to go for an eyelet. I don't actually add any ribbon or anything to this one. I decide for the rest of them I will do that once I've finished some more of the journal and I see how much of the sari silk ribbon I've got left and whether I use lace or string or other things on top of these. So yeah, I'm just using my crocodile to make the hole and also to set an eyelet in there. And yeah, that one's pretty much done except for something to go through the eyelet and maybe something to go on the little paper clip and maybe something to go on the back. Who knows? But anyway, I'm really stoked with it. I think it looks really cool and I love the size. I love the little rose on the front and I love the design that Lidia has done. The next one I want to do some work on is this one with the little tuck spot at the bottom that I made with that little rose piece. I found this piece of velvet ribbon just in a little scrap bowl and I love the way it's kind of folded over like that. That's just sort of how it's happened to be because it's been sort of stuffed in a bowl of scraps and I actually like it. So I decide that I'm actually going to glue it down like that. Just across the top there, I think the colour goes really well with that pattern at the top. It just adds a little bit of texture because I didn't really know pretty much what else I wanted to do with this tag. So that's what I chose to do. I think velvet adds lots of lovely texture and richness, even if you just use a little small piece like that. So yeah, that's what I do with that one, and I have a little play with some lace to see if I want to tuck that under. It's always funny when you're watching after you've done the video and you think, oh, actually that looks quite nice. So I can see why you guys sometimes yell at me going, yes, 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 and then I don't do it. But some things look really good on video that you can't really see in real life. But anyway, I don't end up using the lace. So yeah, just so you know. This one gets an eyelet as well, same as the other one. It's simple, and again, I didn't want to cover up that really pretty design at the top, so I decided to keep it simple and put the eyelet in, and I will decide what I tie through that at a later date. So we're back to the other one with the tuck spot and the swallow on it. And this one seems to be proving to be the trickiest one so far. And I decide after looking at it, what am I going to do to add some more interest to this tag? And I decide to do a little bit of an experiment. You can see I'm just having a bit of a think here while I ink around the edges. But what I end up doing is there's a scrap from one of the other tags that I double printed, and I decide to fussy cut out the little swallow, and I'm going to place that on top of that one there. So you can see me thinking about it. I'm thinking, oh, this is probably madness, and I'm going to fast forward because I think most of this I don't really get in frame. But yeah, I'm cutting around that tiny little bird. It is really tiny and it's quite delicate, and so I place it on top because I'm thinking, will this actually add anything to this tag at all? I do like the idea of it, and I'm thinking about how can I make it so it adds a bit more dimension. Foam tape isn't going to work because it's just so tiny, and I think to myself, I wonder if I could make it a little bit more dimensional with some dimensional magic or with some resin. And I think, well, it's just a piece of paper, let's give it a go. So I'm just inking around the edges to get rid of the white, which is more difficult than I thought, because you know those wings are just so thin at the end and the tail, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to break this at some point and it's not going to work, but I decide I really want to give it a go. So I take it over to my other bench, which is where I do all my messy stuff. I get the resin out and I just put a really sort of thin layer of resin on the bird and put it under the light, and I actually really like how it ends up looking. So I'll just skip that bit because I don't video it because it's too much toing and froing, but I'll show you what it looks like once I've done it. So I'm back with the resined bird and I really love how it looks. I'm still thinking it's very experimental. I'm going to try gluing it down now. Again, it's just so delicate and I'm a bit clumsy, so I'm wondering whether we're going to end up with it broken. I think the resin, because it's just a thin coat, could make it a bit more breakable as well before I get it glued down. And you'll see later that I do actually catch part of the swallowtail with one of the wipes I'm using when I'm trying to press it down, and I'm still in two minds about whether it's a big deal or not. I don't know whether I should just biff the whole tag because of that one tiny piece of paper that's missing. I'll do a close-up and you guys can let me know what you think or what you would do. I always feel bad when something's not exactly how I envisaged it to be. So here I am just trying to put it on there without breaking it and without squidging glue everywhere and getting it in the right place. And it proves to be relatively difficult. I'm going to go back when I edit again and just do some close-ups so you'll see. So this is the finished result. I don't know if you can tell from this close-up, but the top bit of the swallow's tail, the very tip of it, broke off when I was trying to push it down and it got caught on the wipe, and it's really bothering me. You can see me here looking for it, but it's the tiniest piece. I don't find it. So yeah, we will see what we do about that. But apart from that little hiccup, I actually really love it. I have edited it out where I put the paper ruffle underneath that tuck spot, and here I am just gluing down the side of this tuck spot on the tag, and yeah, it ends up being a closed tuck spot. I think I thought the other side was unglued, but it turns out I had glued that as well. I don't remember doing it. It might just be glued down from when I put the ruffle underneath, so it might lift, we'll see. So yeah, that is that tag, and yeah, I love the little shiny bird. It's super cute. So that's pretty much all I get done. I actually am really happy with how much I've managed to do. I have had those tags hanging around for a while and I keep looking at them, and so it was just really good to be determined to sit down and make some progress with them, and I actually really love them. I think they've turned out really beautiful and super cute. So there's 5 plus another one that I made off camera, which I will grab right now. Yeah, there it is. I really like that one too. That's a bit of a tuck spot and using some old Lidia. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. I hope you're all well, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!